Leanne Kruger delivered the first child care credit in Pennsylvania history. She fought to decrease property taxes for our seniors and for new tax breaks for seniors. Leanne has delivered historic funding for Delco schools, for mental health programs, and school safety. Leanne Kruger is a strong voice for women against the extremists who want to take away our freedoms. Leanne Kruger, she listens, she works hard, she represents our Delco values.
Paid for by Leanne 4PA.
Boy Uncle P, and I'm live from the Cultivating Mature Positivity Studios, and this is the Cultivating Mature Positivity Podcast, where we take a deep look into what's going on in the area, everything that's going on in the area. Today I have a very special guest, Dan Nemiroff. He's going to join us in a couple seconds, but I want to remind everybody how important it is to get out and vote November 8th. Make sure you get out and vote. Now, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I never do that. Not as a radio station. We don't do that. But we want everybody to make sure their voice is heard. So vote for who you feel as though is the best candidate for you moving forward, man. Let's get into this interview because there's a lot of things that Septa is doing, right? They're coming out, they're talking to us, they're asking questions, and they want your advice on how they should do things. And they also want to talk to you about the Septa bus revolution, everything that's taking place in Septa, in Chester, tomorrow at 4 to 6, November 3rd, from 4 to 6, come out. It's at City Hall. Let's bring Dan up so he can talk to us about what's going on and how he feels. How you feeling, Dan?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you? It's a beautiful day outside.
It's a beautiful day outside. It's a little cold, you feel me? After last night's victory, shout out to the Phillies, man, 2-1, right?
Yeah.
In the World Series, man. Who would have ever thunk it? I did.
Yeah. It came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, right? But I'm enjoying this ride, right? As I know a lot of people are. You know, so let's talk about what is your position with Septa?
So my title is a manager of planning programs in the Office of Strategic Planning and Analysis. So all that really means is that I manage sort of large scale, complex projects that require a lot of coordination, both internally and with partners like Delaware County, like the city of Chester, like the city of Philadelphia, that kind of thing. So, I'm a project manager, and I'm here to talk about our bus network redesign, sort of which we've dubbed Bus Revolution.
Absolutely. So the Bus Revolution is about redesigning the network or the way that the buses run in the city of Chester. Explain that to me, please.
Right. So SEPTA's never done a project like this before. We have a really expansive bus network, city of Philadelphia, all through the suburban counties, Chester. It's really large, and we've been running a network that's been the same for decades, really since SEPTA was sort of created in the 60s. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but we wanted to do this project because we noticed, 5-6 years ago that we were losing bus ridership. The cost of our services were going up, not in terms of per rider, but in terms of just our overall operating cost. And we wanted to avoid a situation where you have costs going up, ridership going down, and then you have to make service cuts to kind of maintain your operating budget. So we wanted to investigate this type of project, which is something that a lot of other transit agencies started to do, because they were experiencing similar drops in ridership and challenges that we were. So the project is looking at all aspects of bus service. So where the routes go, how often they stop, where they stop, what the schedules look like, what kind of transfer points and connections we have to other SEPTA services, to other bus routes, that type of thing. So it's a holistic look at our bus network. And like I said, it's the first time we've ever done anything like this. So it's exciting, but also a little overwhelming and scary at the same time.
Absolutely. It's scary. If you've never looked at it before SEPTA was created and you're looking at it now, it's a huge network, and it would be scary. So let's talk about what we'll be talking about tomorrow night. You feel me?
Sorry. So we've been at this for about a year, and we started last year on the project, and we did a really detailed analysis of our existing network, what works and what doesn't work, and we started to identify where we would want to make some changes and improvements. And then over the spring and summer of 2020, 2022, we shared 2 different scenarios, which were sort of different approaches towards improving the bus network. And what we're sharing with people now is our draft network. So it's one network, it's a draft. It is not a done deal. We are, really interested in what people think about it. And what we're doing in Chester tomorrow is sort of it's part of about a 2-month phase of engagement. But we're going to be speaking explicitly about the bus services in Chester, just outside the city, where people are going, that type of thing. So what we're sharing tomorrow is the draft proposal, sort of the logic behind the draft proposal, and then sort of getting their feedback on what they like or what they dislike about the proposal, what they would change if we're missing something, that type of thing. So that's what we're sharing now. This round of engagement is going to last another month and a half or so. So there's lots of time for people to get involved with the project, provide feedback, come to open houses like the one tomorrow. And if you can't come tomorrow, we are still soliciting feedback through our project site, and there's maps and a narrative that people can read and sort of get up to speed on the project. So we're sharing a lot tomorrow, and there's going to be food and other types of activities so that people, so hopefully to lure people in, get them to stay for a while, have a conversation and let us know what they think.
Right. In this area in Delaware County, I want to say like Chester might be like the only main hub other than Upper Darby for SEPTA.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think one thing that we want to be clear about is, obviously we've been going through this sort of COVID pandemic for the last few years. And I think we've really learned a lot about where our ridership is and who our core riders are. Chester is a really important hub for us. The transportation center is a really strong connection point. We want to strengthen the connections within Chester. We want to make it easier for people who are in Chester, who commute or go to places outside Chester to do that. But we also want to make it easier to bring people into Chester, because I did notice when I was there last week, there's a lot of exciting things going on. It behooves us to partner with places like Chester, where we have a lot of people that rely on our system. We have a lot of people that care a lot about the community and build partnerships that way. So it is sort of a way for us to strengthen the components and pieces of our bus network that are already doing strong work, like Chester, like 69th Street, those types of things.
Absolutely. So when we think about SEPTA in the city, we think about buses running from Chester to Aston, buses running from Chester to out to Wawa to Westchester and things like that. Like when you talk about a bus revolution, are you talking about changing those routes in any way, or adding new stops or taking stops away that you guys notice people aren't really getting on the bus?
So there's a few different pieces of it. So I think for Chester, I think Chester outside of the city of Philadelphia, our highest ridership routes tend to be routes that come out of Chester, like the 113 and the 109. So we're not looking to change what works, unless there's something about it that's odd, or that there's a really strong route that has one piece that doesn't work. But the routes that are strong, we're looking to strengthen, and that means providing greater levels of frequency. So something we're doing with this project is we're introducing this thing called the Max series. So we're trying to create a system that runs at consistent levels of frequency 7 days a week. So with the 2 key routes that are coming out of Chester, the 113 and the 109, which travel along the 113 and 109, which travel along like McDade and Chester Pike, specifically, we're looking to strengthen those. Add more service. We are looking at bus stops as part of this project. There are bus stops that people aren't using. We're going to look at whether or not we want to retain those in the hopes of speeding service up, but we haven't gotten to that part of the project yet because it's kind of like an implementation phase, and we're really not there yet. But we are looking at we're trying to identify where people are going, where they're going at a higher rate, and then strengthen those routes and build the network that way. There are a lot of routes coming out of Chester that are not as heavy as the 113 and 109, but still carry a lot of people, and we're looking to strengthen those as well. Maybe not to that level, but we're looking to keep those connections in place. But something that we are looking at as part of this project, in order to provide this sort of very consistent frequency, routes that are very long at times, like if it's a really long route, we're looking at maybe breaking it up into two pieces, which might require some transfers. So that's kind of the trade-off in a place like Chester, where you have routes that run through the transportation center, when they're coming north of the city, and then they go to places south. So we might be looking to break those up, run all the routes more frequently, but require transfers. And that's kind of like the input that we need from people. Is that something that they're willing to do if they get greater overall levels of frequency out of it, things like that.
Absolutely. I know that 118 route, that's a long route, taking you all the way to King of Prussia and the different areas it goes into, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of long routes. We've changed over the years. We've changed our, we've changed the network outside the city a lot more than we've changed the network in the city. And a lot of the suburban routes, that are coming out of a place like Chester, they are the way they are because we sort of go around trying to find little pockets of ridership. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing things that way, and we're trying to leave a lot of that in place because people use the routes in those places, and we're not looking to make changes just for change's sake. But the routes are really long, and long routes are extremely hard to manage for us, and we want our system to be more reliable, and reliability in some ways is predicated on having shorter routes. So there is a trade-off there, with the transferring, but I do think that when people see the network and see what we're planning, they'll see that we're really trying to provide much higher levels of frequency than they have today.
Absolutely. So we had a meeting and we were talking about bus shelters and different things like that, right? Is that also a part of this meeting?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and we did talk about shelters. So shelters are complex, and they shouldn't be, but they are. In the city of Philadelphia, the city has a contract with a company called Intersection, which is an advertising company. And the reason the city has so many shelters is because Intersection will pay for the installation, they'll maintain them, and then they'll take a cut of advertising revenue, a big cut. Septa does not typically own public right-of-way. We don't own sidewalks, we don't own roadways. So it's not typical for us to go in and install shelters. But through this project, through our board, which is very supportive of this project, we have created a pool of capital money called the Bus Revolution Support Infrastructure Program, in which we hope to deploy for things like bus stop improvements, for things like shelters. None of that money has been programmed yet, but we want to make sure that we use it on our strongest routes, and we want to focus on some of our not some of the non-city areas, because the city has a mechanism for putting shelters in and making those improvements. So we are going to look at this. Whether the timelines match up perfectly, I can't say, because capital project, because you're constructing something, it's more complicated, and ultimately, again, it shouldn't be so complicated, but it is more complicated. But we are hoping to deploy some of that money, and we do see a lot of opportunities in Chester on some of these routes, sort of that are coming into and going out of the city, to make some of those improvements. And we're excited to talk about that, the potential of things like that.
So tomorrow's meeting is from 4 to 6 p.m. It's at City Hall. When people come through, can we also talk about the rail system, or that's a different situation? Because I know it's two different. It's buses, and then we have trains.
Yeah,
trains are more expensive. You know what I mean? Than the buses.
So for sure. So all of our materials are bus related, but when we met last week, a lot of people brought up safety, right?
Right.
That is not my area of expertise. As I said in the meeting, I use the Market Frankfurt line almost every day. I'm very aware of a lot of the challenges that we have in our system, and a lot of the safety issues we're having. but there's really no topic that's off limits. If somebody comes and wants to talk about regional rail, we may not have materials to share with them, but we'll certainly be willing to have a conversation with them about it, just like any other issue that they have with Septa. So if it's a safety issue, if it's a regional rail issue, we're happy to talk about all of that stuff. The program, they're going to walk in. There's going to be, a series of exercises that we ask them to do. The materials are all specific to the bus revolution and bus service. But obviously, if they want to talk about issues at Chester Transportation Center or anything else, they're more than welcome to, and somebody will listen to them. And if I'm not equipped to kind of provide any input, any feedback to them regarding their issues, like we'll make sure those issues get to the right people at Septa.
Do you feel like Septa is losing money because of Uber and Lyft and ride sharing, right? And the people are just saying, I'd rather get to and not have to walk to a bus stop, you know what I mean? And get on a bus, then walk to my next destination. I could just get an Uber, hop in the car, and get taken to my next destination. Do you think that's a problem?
Yeah, for sure. So, when we started looking at this project, again, like 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago, time flies, but we're still kind of new. They weren't brand new, but we were just starting to see the impact that they were having throughout the region. And there's definitely some of that still drives, our thinking behind this project. Transit can do a lot of things, but it's never going to be that sort of door to door. It's not like calling a taxi or getting an Uber. It can't do that. It's also a lot cheaper.
It is
than Uber or Lyft. It's significantly cheaper, and Uber and Lyft they've been raising their prices steadily over the years.
Oh my God.
I'm not a regular user of those services, but I've used them enough to know their prices have gone, way up since they first started. Transit's never going to be that expensive. It's never going to be able to provide that sort of point to point, precision that people want. But we can provide a lot of value where it's an inexpensive way to get around, particularly if you get a key card, things like that. So we think we provide a lot of value, but there's definitely a convenience factor where people that have the means to use Uber or Lyft, and frankly, sometimes when they don't have the means to do so, they're using those services. So part of this is going to get a little wonky, but we are looking at how people move around, not just using our system, but how people move around generally in a car. So, and that's been part of our analysis. It's like transit can do, transit is good for a certain type of trip. It can't fulfill every kind of trip. If you need to go like 35 miles away for work, like transit's probably not going to be able to do that for you. Right. You probably need a car. But most trips people take are very short, they're a few miles. And so we're trying to look at areas where there's a high number of short trips being made between sort of discrete points, and whether or not transit can fill that gap. So we are trying to build sort of a data set that allows us to be a little more responsive to kind of where people want to go and how they're getting there. But it's a fair question. And I think, we'll have to see how the rideshare stuff plays out, because I would like to think there is a point where it becomes so expensive that it's just not,
it's just out of the question.
It's just not going to work for a lot of people. Right. Even just if you're just mindful of your budget, even if you have money, I think there is going to be a point where the value just isn't there.
Right. Absolutely. I have a quick question. Nolan Fontaine asks, how do we get a stop location announcement added to a bus route? Would this also be something that we're talking about tomorrow night?
So are they asking, they want a stop announcement on a bus? I think we need to know a little bit more about the context, because sometimes people want, we get a lot of requests saying, can you put a bus stop here, right?
Right.
But a lot of times they're not asking for a bus stop. They're asking for a bus to be rerouted to a certain place. So I think we would just need to know what the context was. But again, people can come and talk about whatever they want tomorrow. And if it's a bus, if it's a stop on a route that's already there, we can figure out what the deal is, and we can put that request in for them.
Absolutely. So I used to ride Septa. I used to catch the 113. Used to take it down to Booth Street from 21st Street, right when I was going to school, 8th grade. And just understanding what Septa meant to me as a child, right? When I missed the bus, I didn't want to get up early, right? Different things like that. Septa has always been good to me, right? Never had a problem, never had a issue with Septa. But I think a lot of people are worried about safety. Like I said, we were talking in this meeting, right? So for our elderly and for our children as well, right? To be able to get on a bus and be dropped off at a certain location and not have to worry about that. Have y'all ever thought about, I don't know, putting somebody on the bus, right? A security guard on the bus, or like kind of like what they do with the airplanes, they got a cop on the airplane, right? Or just having at certain locations, someone sitting there making sure everybody gets off and on the bus correctly.
Yeah. So in terms of putting cops on, or putting security guards or cops or whomever on buses, I think that, at our peak time, we have thousands, 1,500 buses on the street. I think that would be a challenge. We do have a program that kicked off about a few weeks ago called SCOPE, SCOPE stands for Safety, Cleaning, Ownership, Partnership, and Engagement. And it's looking kind of holistically at a lot of these safety issues that are plaguing our system. We talked a lot about the transportation center at the last meeting, and there's part of SCOPE, SCOPE is about, it's about establishing partnerships within these different communities and working collaboratively to kind of solve these problems. SEPTA is, transit can do things. Transit is a way for people to connect to each other. It's a way for people to connect to where they need to go to, whether it's a job or an educational opportunity or shopping. But transit isn't, it can't solve the opioid epidemic. It can't solve violence, but we can work more closely with communities that are going through these and experiencing these problems to figure out a way to work together, because transit locations like the Chester Transportation Center often becomes kind of, for lack of a better word, like a hub of some of this activity. So I think that, I'm happy to, we can provide, we'll have some materials, some SCOPE materials at the meeting. And I think the goal here is to really understand the scale of the issue, when the issue is most acute, and then work with the community leaders like yourself and the men and women that were at the meeting last week, work with Chester City government, work with Delaware County to try to figure out ways to sort of humanely solve a lot of these problems. These are, this is sort of people that are experiencing, the sort of the lowest depths of drug addiction or these other issues. They are humans, and we have to work to sort of figure out a way to get them in a better situation if we can. But that being said, we started this project May of last year, and we have heard loud and clear from customers and from people that are not customers but won't use our system because of these conditions, as well as our operators, even, who have said, we don't feel like you're listening to us. We are, operators saying we're victims here. We need to work. We have a responsibility as an agency, particularly if we're saying, okay, we want people to take our services, we want people to use the bus, to use the L, whatever. We need to start proactively working towards making some improvements here. And I think that the SCOPE program is the first step. And I think that, when we started this project, we initially had looked at 2023 as when we would start implementing. But I think we pushed it back to 2024 because we want to start. We're hoping that the SCOPE program leads to some improvements, leads to some visible changes in our system, so that people feel a little more comfortable and it's easier for them to take the bus or to go to the transportation center, and they don't feel uncomfortable doing so.
Yeah, that's important, right? You said, I want you to give the acronym for SCOPE again. What is it?
Oh, sorry, I got to read it. I have it's safety,
cleaning,
safety, cleanliness. Here we go. Safety, cleaning, ownership, partnership, engagement.
I think that's important, right? Partnership is important for anything to get done, right? The people on the ground, the people in the middle, and the people at the top, right? So Septa is now doing this. They're now listening to the people in the middle and at the bottom and on the ground, right? And hopefully this continues to grow and it becomes exactly what every community deserves from Septa riding through. You know what I mean? I talk about the streets all the time. I said, look at the streets, man. They all uneven, and that's just from a bus or a big wheel sitting at a light, right? So I tend to believe there shouldn't be any lights anywhere Septa goes. It should just be able to flow through. But
that'd be interesting.
That's me being in the future and thinking about things that really aren't available to us right now. But I want to thank you for stopping through, man. Let's put that post back up there again tomorrow night. Come out from 4 to 6. It's at Chester City Hall. It's in the community room, right? My man Dan, he's going to be there. Who else you bringing out with you, Dan?
So I don't know who other volunteers. I know I'll be there, and we'll have some of our consultant team there, and but again, we want to talk, we want to listen, and we hope we have a good time. These have been pretty fun events, and the more people, the better. So if the weather's nice, I mean, I know hopefully we'll be done in time for the baseball game, I guess, but we'll see what happens.
So literally, you can go to www.septabusrevolution.com and get more information on the bus revolution. I want to thank John Golden for putting that in the chat, man. I appreciate him. Right. And listen, man, whatever's going on for Septa, however you feel, come out and let somebody know.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't change anything if nobody knows. So we're looking for solution-driven people to come out, not people that want to complain and don't have any solutions. Solution-driven people to come out and talk about the things that they want to see different from Septa, albeit safety and security. You feel me? Information, right? How can you, whatever you want to know, you can get that information tomorrow night, or let him know that you need the information. He will do his best. I know Dan. I see that. He will do his best to make sure you get to the right person to get your issue handled, man. Dan, thank you for thank you for stopping by, man. I appreciate you. And tomorrow night, 4 to 6. Tell them what you want to tell them, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, come tomorrow night, 4 to 6. There'll be food. There'll be activities. We'll talk to you about the bus network redesign or anything else you want to talk about related to Septa. And we hope to see you tomorrow night.
And Septa's also hiring bus operators.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I missed John put that in. Yeah, so we need bus operators badly. So if you're interested in being an operator, it's a tough job, but it's a good job. Definitely check out our site.
Does Septa send people to CDL school, or they have to go to CDL school before they apply?
No, we'll send people to we'll pay for their training.
You'll pay for what?
Their training, the CDL school.
So you can go get your CDL as long as you have your license. Because I have my CDL, and but I had other things. I was dealing with other things. But you can go get your CDL through Septa, not have to pay anything. Go to school, get your CDL, and have a job.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
It's a tough job. It absolutely is a tough job, right? And I see a lot of people doing it. But listen, I see women driving buses. I see men driving buses. Go apply right now because they're hiring, right? They need more bus operators.
We definitely need more bus operators.
So that's the problem right there. So if anybody's out there looking to get their CDL through going to school for Septa, driving for Septa, and making good money, because I know it's good money.
Yep. Really good benefits too.
Let's get it done, man.
Yeah, I got 3 kids.
Yeah.
Really good benefits. Yeah.
Really good benefits. I'm about to come and work for you. So.
I don't know.
I'm
just kidding.
Don't do me like that. Man, it's CMPradio.net. It's your boy Uncle P, man. Come out tomorrow, Thursday night, November 3rd, 4 to 6. It's an open house. It's in Chester. It's in the community center. It's in the community room. I'm sorry. Make sure you come out, talk to Dan. Listen, ask him about the job. He might bring some applications. You gonna bring some applications with you?
We'll see. I'll see if I can get someone to bring some.
Right. John, to make sure you got them.
Thanks,
we got to make sure everything goes down, right? Listen, man, I appreciate you, Dan, for stopping through, man. Listen, whatever you need from us, you already know we're here. CMPradio.net, the voice of Chester, soon to be the voice of Delaware County. Let's talk. Let's have solution-driven problems. Let's problem solve that way. You know what I'm saying? Let's get this done, man. It's Uncle P, CMPRadio.net. Dan, I appreciate you, Dan.
Thank you, Uncle P. I'll see you around, man.
No doubt, bro.
Leanne Kruger delivered the first child care credit in Pennsylvania history. She fought to decrease property taxes for our seniors and for new tax breaks for seniors. Leanne has delivered historic funding for Delco schools, for mental health programs, and school safety. Leanne Kruger is a strong voice for women against the extremists who want to take away our freedoms. Leanne Kruger, she listens, she works hard, she represents our Delco values.
Paid for by Leanne 4 PA.
Remember to go vote November 8th. I don't care who you vote for, but make sure you go vote. Let your voice be heard. CMPRadio.net. It's your boy Uncle P. I want to thank Dan for stopping through and talking to us, man. It's important. It's important. Solution driven, right? Be solution driven in everything that you do. Be safe. Peace.